Hi everyone, Adam here. In the last video, we finalized our build out of this initial table. And in this video, I want to show you how to add on a couple of different features and potentially create this table a little bit differently if you want it to be even more flexible than it already is. To start, let's look at this date formula that we have here. With this sort function that we have, right now it's sorted by date, we can decide which way we want to sort the data. We have a range, and we actually are supposed to give it, or we can give it, a sort column, and whether or not we want it to be ascending or not. How that looks is, let's go to the end of this formula here, and remove a parenthesis. Now, if we do a comma, we can choose the sort column. We have two columns that we're bringing back for this sort function. The first is the date, and the second is the season phase. So if we select column 1, and then we have to say whether or not it's ascending or descending, comma, true, which means that it is ascending, or it goes from least recent to most recent, and we close the parenthesis and click enter, nothing will happen. That's because this is already sorted from top to bottom, or earliest to latest by date. But if we select column 2 in our sort column and click enter, now it is sorted by season phase. And if we want to reverse this sort, what we can do is, instead of ascending being true, which because we're sorting by season phase, this is alphabetical ascending, we can change true to false and click enter, and now it's sorted the other way around. And this is just to show you that we can manipulate what's in here, what's in our formula, to decide how this table acts. If we wanted to make this more dynamic, what we can do is, so let's just make this super simple. This number can be something else. We can use match like we've done with our choose and things like that to say, hey, let's match it based on something that we pick, or the column that we pick in our table. To do that, we can use the function match, open parenthesis. Now what do we want to match? We want to match what we pick that we want to sort by, which we'll put right here in B55, comma, and we're going to match that to these two variables, which are our two items in our formula, right? We have dates and we have season phase, and depending on what we pick, we'll sort by that. So it's dynamic. We do comma 0, an exact match, close the parenthesis, and click enter, and we have an error. That's because we have not picked anything in this cell, and actually I'm going to merge these cells together, and we will go to data validation, and create a list of our items that we can pick from. So we'll reject input. It has to be one of these two things, because those are the only things that'll work. And we can select data from a range and select these two things and click OK, save. Now we have a drop-down list, and we should be able to select one of these things, and it'll be sorted by that. So now it's sorted by season phase, and now it's sorted by date. But right now it's sorted the wrong way by date, or it's sorted most recent to least recent. That's because we have this false in here. What we can do is we can create a checkbox that lets us decide on the front end, or right here, how we sort it, whether it's ascending or descending. We can do that by putting the word true right here, and in our formula, instead of this as part of our sort function, instead of us saying false here, we can refer to this cell, or whatever this cell says. And right now it says true. If we click enter, now we can just type in false into this cell, and it'll sort another way. Or we can type true back in. We can even make this a true-false dropdown. However, one interesting thing that might be a little bit easier to use is that you can use a checkbox. Checkboxes in Google Sheets are essentially true or false values. If it is checked, it is true, and if it is unchecked, the data behind the scenes is false. So we can add a checkbox by going to Insert, Checkbox, and now we see the checkbox is checked. And we see it says true here. Now, if we uncheck the checkbox, we see it says false. And we can just toggle back and forth between these two things. It's a little bit easier than picking from a drop-down or typing in true or false. Now we can sort our table. And that's the simple part of it. Now, if we want to get a little bit more complex, we could change this function in our table. We have this function sort, which does not restrict the number of entries in your table. We can change this function to be sort n, which works almost the exact same way, except we need to give it information about, we pretty much tell it how many records we want to show. So imagine you have 1,000 records and you only want to show the top 100 sorted by date, or whatever it might be. You can do that using this function. So let's walk through this a little bit. Let's go to the end here, just click into it after the comma. This one works a little bit differently, where we need an n first, or the number of things that we want to show here. Let's pick the number 5 for now, comma. Display ties mode. This means that if two of those entries are the same, or whatever you're sorting by, if they're the same, do you want to show them, even if it goes beyond the number 5? So imagine that we had 10/17/2020 in here twice, and that was the 5th entry. Do we want both of them to show up, which would actually mean we have 6 total entries? Or do we just want one of them to show up? I'm going to say false for display ties, because I don't want to display ties. And now we decide on our sort column. And that sort column, we can just use this match thing that we did, and then we decide whether or not it's ascending, and we can just keep that as is, because we have that checkbox to decide whether or not it's ascending or descending. And if we click enter, now we'll only show the top 5 records based on this criteria. And if we sort this by season phase, again, we're just going to show the top 5 records. Now, to make this a little bit more dynamic in this function, instead of typing in the number 5 for the number of records we want to show, we can make this dynamic as well. So I have this little thing that says records to show, and maybe here we just type in a number. So let's say 10. And you guessed it, instead of typing in the number 5 into this sort formula, we can remove that 5 and select this cell. So we have control over what that number is. And if we click enter, now we'll show the top 10. I don't even know if I have 10 in here, but if we change this number now to 3, we'll see 3. If we change it to 5, we'll see 5. And now we have something that's a little bit more dynamic. And I think that's it for this video, because in the next one, we're gonna get things really complicated. So maybe this is helpful. And in the next video, we're gonna make this even more dynamic. And maybe I'll organize this a little bit too. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. Hopefully it's helpful. And a little bit about me, maybe the coolest place that I've been. Coolest place that I've been was in New Zealand. I took a hike at I believe it was Tongariro National Park, and in the North Island, and it was incredible. That was the coolest place that I've ever been. And if you don't know where that is, you can do a little bit of Googling and let me know what you think. Where's the coolest place that you've ever been? Let me know in the comments below, and then I'll know where to book my next vacation. So thanks again for watching. If this was a helpful video, make sure to give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, and this entire series has been helpful for you, make sure you do that too. And I will see you in the next video where we're gonna get crazy. So prepare yourself.